do as we always do and call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. And at this time, we'll grant the Westwood Media Center the right to record this meeting. Ask if anyone else here wishes to record the meeting. Okay, seeing none. Move along to the chairman's update. We would like to invite everyone to the 31st anniversary of the annual tree lighting ceremony, which will be this Sunday, December 2nd, beginning at 3 o'clock. So it's an hour earlier than usual. It starts at 3 o'clock this year. And the weather is at least supposed to be warm. We can't promise rain yet. But and as the 31st anniversary, we have continued to add amazing new activities that were generously sponsored by many of our local businesses. They include a horse-drawn sleigh rides, stilt walking elves, face painting, balloon artists, holiday characters, hot chocolate and cookies, musical and dance performances, and our guests of honor this year will be students from Westwood's integrated preschool. The town would like to thank our generous sponsors who contributed to this event this year. They include Dedham Savings Bank, Fox Hill Village, the Julia Ruth House, Islington Barber, Westwood Family Chiropractic, Dr. Donald J. McLennan, Sheer Illusions, Westwood American Legion Post 320, Kiara Bistro, and Hale Reservation. So thank you to all of our sponsors. It is, of course, free, so join us Sunday afternoon starting at 3 o'clock. All right, on our scheduled action, the thing that we all love to discuss so much is our tax classification. So I'd like to invite the assessors up at this point in time. Well, why not? Get an opportunity to be on television. It doesn't happen all that often, Jim.
It'll be my last time.
That's right. So we might as well.
Why they don't ask.
I'll sit here at the end.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce?
Yes. Yeah. And just for the record, why don't you introduce yourself for people that may not know you or maybe tuning in for the first time?
May have forgotten.
Yeah, they may have forgotten. So it's been so long.
Hope they have.
Pam Dukeman, Finance Director.
Phil Shapiro, member of the Board of Assessors.
Mark Murphy, member of the Board of Assessors.
Debbie Robbins, Town Assessor.
And Maureen Blade had a personal conflict and was unable to come. But she's the chairman this year.
Oh, great. Okay. So you're here to talk about our tax classification. This was a public hearing that was continued from 11/5/18. And at that time, we continued because the state hadn't certified yet, right?
Right.
Okay. So, Pam, would you like to take over?
So all values have been certified, and we're in great shape. And I think Phil's going to go through a quick presentation, similar that we do each year, that just walks quickly through the process of what you're doing, and really you're allocating the taxes among the commercial and residential base.
Okay.
On the
Sure.
right, this one here.
This one here. Okay.
No, this one, sorry.
Other side.
This side.
Other side.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. So just to do a little background, the values are based on values from January 1st, 2018, and which are based on sales during calendar year 2017, and the value for new growth is of June 30th, 2018. Our overall value increased 6.6% from fiscal year 18, and residential is expected to go up 5.6, and commercial 12.3. So obviously that's primarily as a result of what's going on at University Station, and that sort of continues to be the driver for commercial. As you can see from this chart, the residential is now almost exactly 84%, and commercial 16%. And before University Station, we were down to about 12% commercial. So it's had a pretty substantial impact for us. if we look at this next, you can see sort of the migration over time, and the light green bars are fiscal year 12, and we go through fiscal year 19, and as you can see, there are not very many homes under 400,000 left in town, only 110, and there's been a migration, particularly an increase in homes from 600,000 to 1 million, and also a substantial increase in homes from 1 million to 1.5 million. So there's been a lot of work done, but primarily a lot of appreciation in residential. And we had, let's see, new growth of about 1.2 million, and University Station was about, what's that, 276,000. And as always, Pam was conservative in town meeting. We had estimated that at 200,000, so obviously a little bit better. And it actually will see an increase next June 30th that we don't have, just based on what's happened between June 30th of this year and what's going to happen through next year. Let's see. So the shift to get to the issue that is legally before you, we're recommending unanimously as a board 1.68. As you can see, historically we had been at about 1.65, and in fiscal year 15 shifted up to 1.7. There are two things that are going on here that make this minimize the impact of this on residential. One is the strong growth in commercial, and the second is that we're now in a time where while residential is going up, we can do this shift without shifting a lot of cost to the average house. And we want to do this because commercial historically is much more volatile. Mm-hmm. And if commercial goes down dramatically, and we are close to the closer we are to the 175, the less flexibility we have, and the more we have to pass that increase directly through to residential residents. And it can really be a rate shock for folks. So the more distance we can get, and we're not saying go to 125 or 140 or something, but having just that little bit of space allows us to mitigate an increase should residential stay firm. I mean, we haven't had very many years where residential's gone down. I'm not sure, Debbie, how long have you been here?
14 years,
14
and it's
years.
never gone
It's
down.
never gone down.
I think it was the late 80s, 90 might have been.
Commercial,
Yeah.
we've had,
Significant.
I think there were 2 years of the 9 years that I was on the
That was tough.
Board of Assessors, and so we've had at least 2 or 3 years, I think, where commercial's gone down. And when that happens, if you're close to the 175, you just have to move all of that burden over onto the residential. So this gives us a little bit of breathing room. We were comparing ourselves to the Federal Reserve, that you sort of have to have interest rates go up because then if there's a problem, you have the ability to cut them. This is the same kind of concept. So the figures on this next chart show you the move from fiscal year 18 to 19. Residential share of the levy still goes down because of the growth at University Station. So this is a particularly good year in which to be able to do this. And the savings from commercial, from the split rate, go up to $1,370 for the average household. Subsequently, we've got some figures about average home, the sample tax bill, change in that tax bill, savings from the split rate. And as you can see, over time, the average, we saw before how the average house value has gone up. Here we see that, the average tax bill has gone up, although the increase this year is substantially less than it was last year. It was about $400 last year, and it's about $170 this year.
Could you take a minute, Phil, just for the sake of people who are listening to this and comment? You brushed over it quickly about the savings from the split tax rate. Could you just go a little bit, not a deep dive, but a little dive into that and why that's important?
Do we have the actual tax rates here,
Like a
Pam?
single rate.
So,
The single rate would be 1681.
okay, so, what
Here,
page
the
is
rate
this?
site,
Yeah, on the back of page. Let me go back a page here.
Also, that bottom number on that chart. there.
Savings
Savings
from the split rate.
Yes, so the savings from the split rate are $1,370. And let me just, wait a minute,
Previous.
okay. It's, how do I go? Oh,
Yep.
previous, got
Yep.
it, okay.
Perfect.
Got it. Okay. So, right now, if you own a home in Westwood, you pay $15.09 per thousand
Of value.
of value. And the values are pretty close to real. They're generally about 95%. If you own a business, commercial property, you pay $29.30 per thousand. So the rate is substantially higher. And many towns, like Norwood, have a single rate, and they charge commercial and residential the same rate. We split the rate. We have a large difference favoring residents. And that difference is basically worth, for the average homeowner, about $1,370 per year. It's a good reason to patronize and use, local commercial, industrial.
And if we hadn't had
and
University Station
we
come
hadn't had
along, we would have
University
long
Station
lost
their
split tax rate ability.
Yeah, because almost all, a substantial majority of the growth over the last,
From that, yeah, not all. yeah.
6 years or so has
It just,
been.
it's so hard to
University Station.
explain in a short conversation how valuable it is that we've been able to maintain that split tax rate
Yeah.
to relieve residential taxpayers
Yep.
of a higher tax burden.
If it was a blended tax rate, it would be 16.8, so everybody would be paying almost $2 more per thousand.
Yep.
So if you've got a $600,000 house, you're paying $1,200 more.
And then times
It's an
each year.
incredible savings for our residents.
it is.
And I don't think people
Yeah.
really understand it. We try to get that out. We try to
And
do
it's part of the reason why we started having the business development advisory efforts back in the 90s, and, the town has done an awful lot in this area. Not just in sort of making ourselves more user-friendly for businesses, but also in trying to articulate the benefit for business of being in this town and for the town of having these businesses. So it's a mutually beneficial
Right.
situation, and it's something that's really made a difference in people's financial lives, tax benefits for
And in
folks.
FY19, commercial's only about 15.9% of value. They're going to pay over 26% of the tax bills. And they don't draw on our largest services, the school department or our trash and waste collection pickup. Those are two of the most expensive services that any town can provide. And the commercial does not participate in that. So they're paying, really subsidizing people for a couple of our main services. So it's really a terrific benefit. and the selectmen have worked this shift so carefully over many years. You know, it's very difficult to do, but I think every year kind of come in right at the right spot to kind of give the most benefit, but make sure that we retain good commercial property and help them.
And,
Tremendous
you know,
benefit.
we look at the commercial rate to make sure it's competitive, because quite honestly, right now with University Station, if we could get some office use down there, you know, that would be a big help, you know, to the town for its tax base, and also for the retail outlets down there. If they had office buildings there, obviously it'd make a big difference for them too. So
Yeah, when I think it's this slide, when I was reading this earlier, this slide is what tells the whole story. I mean, it's really amazing to see the decrease in the residential levy, you know, with the soaring values. It's just interesting that there's this reverse relationship. So this is great.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
An additional point to make about this is in '91, when there was a loss in commercial value of 45%, while the residential went down about 20%. And there was this big shift. That was the crisis year. We did a study that led to the Business Development Advisory Board to determine whether or not the tax shift was actually having an impact. The study concluded that for the high-end businesses that we want to have down in University Avenue, it does not have an impact. Those folks will go wherever it makes sense to go. Location is the important factor. Taxes are not. And so the split tax rate we've been struggling ever since to pump up our tax share, our commercial development, so we can maintain the split tax rate.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much the story, and so our recommendation is a 1.68 tax shift.
Questions?
I'm good.
I think you've made a good
I
case
know it.
for it, and
Not much to ask.
I think we're in a good position to do exactly what you said.
And I think the PowerPoint is great to, you know, help educate people, because I do think people find this confusing. But that, like I said, those 3 slides, one of them in particular, is very powerful. So I appreciate it. Okay, are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
The public hearing, do you want to?
Since it is a public hearing, we'll open it up to questions for anyone from the public that might have a question.
Hearing none?
Seeing none?
Okay. I move that the board act upon the recommendation of the Board of Assessors in order to keep equity among the property classes and vote to approve the tax classification factor of 1.68 for FY19.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you all
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Don't go anywhere, though.
Thank you.
Oh, and
Stay right there. You might as well introduce
Stay
our
right
new
there.
assessor,
we,
since Deb is leaving us.
yes,
Deb,
we
thank you very
would
much.
like to say thank you to Deb, and know that she's put in 14 wonderful years down in the basement.
I was saying the other day when I first got the job, I was
gonna let
told
you
it
see
was
sunlight.
temporary.
Yes.
It's still temporary.
I know.
I think that was Lou Rizzoli, that wasn't me, who said that. And we're welcoming John Curran. Ah, here he is. Amazing.
Well, John, we met earlier.
Who currently is in Norfolk, is a resident of Norwood, and is starting next Monday. They're going to overlap for 3 weeks or so, which will be great.
Great.
For John to fully get involved, and
Fully exposed the basement.
anytime your knees are okay and you want to go downstairs and say hello.
So I have a request, something for you to do after you get settled in, John. No, it's just, this is something to think about. It might already exist, but as you were talking about the University Station value appreciation, it would be very interesting. It's not a priority and it's not time sensitive to track where we were and update it to where we've been, what's new growth, what's appreciation. Because I know recently, not only are we building, but the values have gone up, land values have increased
Yeah.
demonstrably, with sales translating into higher values. And at some point, it might be a good thing to dig your teeth into, since it is so important to our commercial values, to sort of feel the essence of what's happened and the history of it. So take that, shape it any way you want. It's not, I don't need it, but I think it would be informative in future discussions.
Absolutely. I think it would make it nice and clear to see what the new growth portion
Yeah,
is versus.
some of us have the
appreciation in
institutional
general.
knowledge, and a lot of people don't now, and it just, it's
I have
very,
a
it's
few
very
Excel
valuable.
spreadsheets already in the system that we can kind of merge together.
And pictures are good. But it's just a thought. Again, no priority and nothing urgent.
Any questions?
Welcome.
We all have an opportunity to meet.
And
with
thank you,
before the
Debbie.
meeting.
You're welcome.
Congratulations, welcome, and Deb, thank you very much for your service.
Happy retirement to you.
Thank you. I know, I can't wipe the smile off my face.
Pretend for a moment.
Thank you
Good luck, John.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For coming out.
We'll be seeing a lot of you, John.
All right. Next, we have the alcohol and rules regulations. And Nora?
I've got one in my desk.
So, Nora,
Excuse me, I have a cold and I'm losing my voice, so I'll do
must
my
have been
best.
overtime at the airport.
Exactly, that didn't
And the
didn't
long
help.
ride back.
That's right.
17-hour drive. So at the last meeting, there was a set of licensing rules and regulations that were presented for consideration by the board, and there were several questions that were asked. So I went back to Karen Flynn, our licensing agent, and she provided you with a report based on the questions and giving you the answers. So I just wanted to walk through those quickly. There was a question about whether other towns used operating hour restrictions as a violation penalty. And Karen looked into other surrounding towns and found that Dedham, Norwood, Medfield, and Needham don't have any specified penalties at all in the regulations, and that Wellesley just uses the term modification of the license, which could include anything. There are some other towns that are a little bit further away that do have a provision for modification of the license, including Westfield, Mass., which has specific language for temporary rollback of operating hours. Karen also spoke to Chief Silva, who had originally recommended this, and he said that it was used extensively
New Bedford?
in New Bedford when he was there, and he found it very helpful to give just one more option. I will point out that the regulations give it to you as an option. Doesn't require you to do it. You can if you choose to.
It's great to know that
It's another option.
Yep.
Another question had to do with the number of licenses that we currently have available. And I was just looking at this right before I came over, and it's actually better than it looks in what's available. Under the category issue to date, in the first category of on-premise alcohol, we have 15. Karen reports that we have 9 issued to date. That's true, but one of them was for Bonefish, so that's no longer valid. So we actually have 8 issued to date and 7 remaining in that category. For on-premise beer and wine, we're allowed to issue 8. We have 3 issued to date, 5 remaining. For off-premise beer and wine sales at the grocery stores, we have permission for 4. They're all outstanding, so we don't have any other licenses available for stores. Another question had to do with information regarding the minimum coverage limits for liquor liability. And the limits that are in our regulations right now are those that are prescribed by the ABCC. And we were advised by the ABCC not to indiscriminately change those limits. They'd like us to stick with their limits, despite the fact that they're low. There was a little bit of leeway, I guess, in the language that came from the ABCC. That was reviewed by town council, who affirmed that the ABCC advises us not to raise the limits unless there's an establishment with multiple violations.
Wasn't the limit for like the 1 day, I think is what the change was for the 1 day license, right?
I
So it's
believe
not
it
necessarily an
was.
establishment.
Right. No, it isn't it's not for a licensed establishment. It
Right.
was for a 1 day
Because
license.
most of those are carrying, 5 and 10.
Yes.
So,
I looked into it, I talked to Steve Miller,
yeah,
And he indicated that although he's never seen anything really exceed the limits, that it's up to the Board of Selectmen. He suggested having a conversation with we have some regulars that come in for one-day licenses. Have a conversation with them, find out what impact that might have. And it's up to the board's discretion. But so he advised that the Alcohol Review Committee invite him in, have a conversation, and then advise the board.
Okay. I mean, that's a small issue. We can always take that up at
Well,
a later time.
I would think you'd check with the insurance companies that
what
provide
the
it.
difference
Look
is.
at our record of who the insurance company has been. Just ask a couple, what would it be to go from 500,000 to $1 million in coverage? I think it is pretty minor. And that would be helpful for the
Yeah,
review.
and the
committee.
And it might be moot, because, I mean, it says that you have to have minimum 250. They might be coming in with more, we just don't know.
Yeah.
So do we require anything from them when they apply?
They have
We
to have
require their
certification.
certificate.
Yeah.
And that would show what the amount is, and I do believe it's usually the minimum that's required.
Yeah.
I don't think we're
It's a minimum
finding-
that's required, but a lot of them is established, they're hiring
Like a tip
caterers.
certified, right.
and-
Right,
and
the
people like
caterers
that,
very
you know.
well may have much higher
And
numbers.
most of
Yes.
them have much higher, because that's their business, and
right.
so it'd just be Hale Reservation, that if they were insuring themselves, they would do it on a one-time basis.
Okay.
And then the other question that was asked had to do with, was a request for a clarification of why the Alcohol Review Committee, the ARC, is being recommended to report to the town administrator rather than the Board of Selectmen. So I'd just like to read to you the response that Karen provided. The Alcohol Review Committee is an all-staff advisory committee from public safety divisions and town administration. The function of the committee is to review application requests for new or modified licenses and/or concerns that have come to the attention of the committee, either through a violation or through a staff observation. All meetings happen during the normal workday and are called when an application is submitted or when an issue arises. Because most of the information the committee deals with is sensitive in nature, it is recommended that the staff have a closed forum to discuss the issue thoroughly, sharing the professional expertise to determine the best recommendation for the town administrator to then relay to the Board of Selectmen. The board, as the licensing authority, will then review the application further in a public meeting or hearing where appropriate, where residents or businesses can have ample time to raise concerns or give support to the issue.
Yeah, I appreciate you looking into them. I'm fine with them as they are.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Ready for a motion?
I am.
Okay.
Nance, all set?
Oh, I just want to say, I think Karen did a great job, and you, Nora, in responding to our questions, and this was just presented so nice and clearly, so
Thanks,
thank
I'll
her
relay
for
that
it.
to Karen. She does a great job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
clearly.
Ms. Dickey?
So I move that the board approve the suggested revisions to the rules and regulations governing alcohol beverages and special and one-day liquor licenses, rules and regulations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nora.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving along, we have a joint meeting with the Housing Authority. I don't know why mine is not popping up, but let me see.
Just in time.
Okay. So, we have, how many from the Housing Authority? John, you want to come up and, is your chair? Who's the chair at this point in time?
She moved.
You moved, I know.
Retiring.
That's part of the reason we are here.
And who was then designated? Any vice chair?
No, a vice chair.
Okay.
Okay,
You just get elected and you're...
out in the hallway a few minutes before.
No?
I wasn't at that meeting, so I was not elected.
That's what
You
we-
might have been.
Oh, you might have been.
That's usually how it happens.
Coming out on such a terrible night.
All right, so,
Parked in the wrong place.
did you want to introduce yourself first and then call your meeting to order?
Yes, I'm Elisa Franco. Christine Privatera.
John Cummings,
All the members of the Housing Authority, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
thanks for having us.
And so it's a joint meeting, but I believe that you'll need to open your board meeting, call it to
Just
order, and then we can conduct business.
Procedurally, just call it to order.
Yes.
So I'm calling our joint meeting together.
Our
open?
committee, our meeting
Our
together.
meeting together.
All right. So we have two things to do tonight. We have to accept the resignation of Jill Onderdonk, who has moved out of town and can no longer serve as an elected member of the Westwood Housing Authority. Jill has sent us a resignation. She has been a valuable member of the Housing Authority and the board, and we wish her well in her new home, although apparently she hasn't gone that far. She'll probably still see her in town from time to time.
Hope so.
So next we have to appoint someone to Jill's position, and apparently we have someone who is interested. And so did you want to tell us about him? I mean, we have it in front of us, but just for those at home?
Well, I'd like to point out that the person who is interested is Lou Rizzoli, and he has been a very vital member of the community, as well as the Westwood Housing Authority. He was the one of the founders of the Housing Partnership, and also was instrumental in the passage of the Home Rule petition to found the Housing Authority. And he continued to be on the Housing Authority for another 10 years. And so, is there anything else to say?
We're excited that he wants to be on the board again.
Yes, and we're grateful that he has
Volunteer.
volunteered.
So he has served as chairman, which might be right back where he is, but
Not yet, not
from
yet.
1988 until
do his time, John.
1998.
Oh, no, he's done with that.
And so you've asked us to, or you've decided to vote on Lou's
Yeah. Yes, we
nomination, if
Yes,
you will?
right.
We have.
But it's my understanding that
We
it
vote
has to
tonight.
be
Yes,
the 6 of us, right?
okay.
You are right.
I just, before we pass on, I just want to make sure that we just take a moment, and I'm obviously very excited for Lou. Lou was my professor in law school for state and local government. So you can either give him credit or blame him for my performance, one or the other.
No,
But I think it's important that we recognize the work Jill did over the years. And when we talk about subsidized housing inventory and 40B and affordable housing, she really lived the spirit of the law in ensuring that the town did a great job of dispersing appropriate housing throughout our housing stock. So I really, she did a great job, and we are a model. I know she had a lot of work to do with that. So I just didn't want the moment to pass without saying that. And obviously very excited to have Lou join the team and keep that going. And I know you've been a part of a lot of that work too. So I'll stop there, because I don't know where to go from there. So who makes the motion?
So this is to fill Jill's term, which would expire, I guess, to the next election or the next town meeting, right? So just so everyone is clear. So Lou would be filling the seat until,
Does it expire then, or does she have an
No, it
incomplete term?
does expire then. But the hope would be that
that Lou might consider
Lou
running
pulls the
for it.
papers and continues to serve with the community in this regard. And that was the expressed hope.
So I just wanted to note, too, that Lou has been the recipient of the John Cronin Public Service Award in 2013. So it was obviously done yeoman's work in this town that he's been recognized prior to today, and yet he still comes back.
If you look back at the Cronin Award recipients, they almost always come back and do more.
That's great.
I can list a bunch of them.
Yeah,
They're all
that's true.
doing something again.
Okay.
So, should I make
So
a
first,
motion?
well, first I
Nominate.
guess
If
we
I
need
could
to,
interject.
Sorry.
Speaking for the Westwood Housing Authority, I do want to commend Jill for all that she's done for the Housing Authority, and I know that she was instrumental in getting me up to speed and letting me know about the regulations and being a true leader.
okay, thank you. So I guess first we have to formally accept the resignation of
Okay,
Jill.
so I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen, meeting jointly with the Westwood Housing Authority, accept the resignation of Jill Onderdonk.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we have to
I
first
move-
nominate and a
Yep.
second, right? Okay.
So I move that we appoint Lou Rizzoli to fill the term vacated by the previous occupant through May 6, 2019.
Why don't we just say through the conclusion of the
Through the
annual
conclusion
town
of-
meeting.
Of the annual town meeting, yeah.
Okay? So, as amended through the expiration of town meeting.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
We do roll call.
Okay. So, well, that's just for the nomination? It's just for the
No,
nomination?
just, no, it's, you
Okay.
got a second, now you do the roll.
Okay. Mr. Hickey?
Aye?
Mrs. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, aye.
And
And then the Housing Authority, you'll have to take a roll call as well. This is to nominate and second.
Lisa Franco, aye.
Aye.
Craig Otero?
John Cummings, aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now we have a vote to appoint.
You're in, Lou.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you all, really.
Thank you. No, I started out doing this back in, the 80s, and I think I'm being recycled, is what's happening.
That's all right.
Apparently, that's the way to go from what we hear.
What's old is new again.
Excellent.
We're
Well,
glad you can do
congratulations,
it.
Lou. Thank you very much. So now you have to adjourn your meeting?
yes.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Joint
Second.
meeting?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank you very
joining us
much.
tonight.
Thank you for joining us.
you.
So for your information, we'll provide you with a copy of the minutes of your meetings. Right?
Very brief meeting. We don't have, we
Just
don't
Sunday at the tree
have,
lighting.
we don't have administrative assistants. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Lou.
I think. All right, we are moving along. On our agenda, we have the community. Okay. Community electricity aggregation. Tom, welcome back. So, Tom, you were here last meeting,
Yes, sir.
and there were some questions, and you provided the information to us, including the other towns that are looking to take advantage of this at some point in the future.
Yes.
So just, since you did it once before, do you want to just give us a brief
Give you a brief
summary of
overview
before?
again. Sure.
Yes, please.
Community choice aggregation is essentially the town enters into a bulk purchase contract to buy power. The residents of the town are automatically enrolled into this program, with the exception of the residents that are not receiving their power from Eversource. The ones who get it from a third party are not automatically enrolled. All the others are. Then Good Energy would be the broker that works with the energy group. They go out for bids. They try to find a bid that will save anybody who enrolls or is enrolled money. If they can't get a contract that saves money, then there's no obligation to go forward, and essentially you would stop there at that point. But assuming they can get a contract that will save the residents a cent or so off their electric bill, everybody then is enrolled, and the contract essentially goes forward. Everybody will see that on their bill. People will then be given an option of upping what they pay or lessening maybe the advantage, so that 50% or 100% of the power that is essentially being used by that they represent in their residents comes from renewable sources. So the benefit, of course, is it should save money for those who opted to do it. It gives the chance for others who wish to participate more in climate change initiatives. It gives them the opportunity to participate by doing that, by lowering or upping rather the percent of renewable. By just signing in and saving the money at the low end, you do increase the amount that comes from renewable from 13 to 18%. So there is just by starting the program, we do something automatically. And again, we should be seeing a savings as a result of the brokerage. If we don't, then of course there's no point in going forward. Anybody who's in the program can opt out at any time. People who are not in the program can opt in at any time. So there's no obligation. They have no penalty unless they have a third-party supplier who has some kind of a penalty into whatever contract they signed. That's something we have no control over.
Right.
But in general, they should be able to opt in or out at whatever wish they have as they go forward.
So it's only if people save money.
That's right.
Okay.
They can save money.
They can save money.
They can also spend more and increase the percent of renewable that they are in their particular residence. But that's their option.
Right.
Either they save money or they can spend more and have a higher percentage of their energy coming from renewable sources.
I see. Okay.
And I've asked Tom, but not for tonight, to the savings, to put it more in terms of what that means for a homeowner. What does it accumulate to, or potentially? And it's something that's going to require work on the part of someone else. I think it will be helpful in terms of educational efforts, not necessary for tonight.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I think the point of tonight was really to gather our willingness to have you move forward with a presentation at town meeting or a warrant article at town meeting.
First would actually be
Yes,
FinCom.
exactly.
Yes, and then
And we, Tom and I have had some conversations, and I've done some more background understanding and feel comfortable with it at this point.
Yeah, no, I do too, and I
Yeah.
think it's really interesting. I think, between now and FinCom and town meeting, it'll generate some discussion. I do think the brochure put out by the Executive Office of Energy is really well done, and I thought it helped me, from the last time we met in looking at it. So I look forward to more discussion about it. I do think it's something worthwhile to bring forward.
well, the town residents will all have to be educated between now and town meeting.
Exactly.
Because if it doesn't pass there, of course, the warrant doesn't go anywhere from that.
Yeah,
point.
I mean, I guess I'm trying to still understand, and we don't have to go too deep tonight, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of downsides, and there is an
There
ability
should
to
be no
opt out
downside, no.
if it doesn't go
That's
well.
where I got to. It really,
Yeah.
it's,
I wasn't seeing the con,
no.
So, go forward, Tom. Bring it home
Okay.
at town meeting.
Do we need any
Do we need an
action?
official
Yeah,
vote?
you need to take a vote.
Oh, okay, that
Just
wasn't
doing
the
those,
proposed action, but,
Well, I would think you'd take a vote authorizing Tom to go forward and craft an article that the
Yeah,
board then.
it's a soft.
Okay.
so I
it's a
move that
soft
the
support.
board authorize Mr. Gillette and designees to put forward a warrant article at town meeting adopting the community electricity aggregation program.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I just, before Tom leaves, I'd just add, since the last meeting, Tom and I sat down with a couple of consultants. We were coming here to sell their services. Their services mirrored what Tom provides. And they asked, foolishly at the beginning of the conversation, well, what are you doing? And then Tom rattled off all the things he's doing. And they basically never got to their presentation. They kind of left.
Like they took their material.
And why
Yeah,
were they,
They
exactly.
wouldn't even give us that
They
material.
didn't
why
give
were
us
they
anything.
there in the first place?
The sellers,
They
wanted to
called
provide.
on the town?
What Tom
They want-
does.
Yeah, and he,
Provide what we-
yeah, and they knew.
They walked away
people-
wiser, I bet, though.
Yeah, exactly.
He
They
could've
stole
worked-
some of your ideas.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
And actually, I knew them all
Yeah.
prior life, so
Yeah, you have,
very different.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So moving along, on to new business. We have the lease renewal for Mother's Morning Out at the Islington Community Center. Mike, did you want to take this one?
Yep, so, we have now a commitment that's going to go forward. They want to stay in business. They've made an official decision. They're changing their director. They've got a commitment that as the Islington development proceeds, the CVS space will be renovated to accommodate their needs, and it will accommodate their specific needs, so that's a good thing. At the same rent that we're charging them currently in the Islington Community Center. And so they've requested, as the lease provides for, a year-and-a-half notice if we're not going to continue it, and that decision's due on December 1st. So my recommendation is that the board indicate to them that their lease, they can continue their lease through the next year, and we'll renew it again next December. It should be next December probably will be the last time we need to do it.
I'm fine.
yeah.
I look at it, Mike, you know me, and I'm not I'm like 2013 and no increase in the rent at all.
I know.
Like, shouldn't there be something built in, like a 1.5% or something just built in over time?
I feel like when we're coming to the end, though, it's kind of like,
We hope.
And
well,
You know what I mean? We hope. We don't.
Revisit it then.
We can't guarantee what the economy's going to do,
And the developers agreed to the rent they're paying now, so that if you
Right.
boost them up, then they'll get brought down by the developer when he finishes, so.
Well, and the other thing is this gets straight passed through to the users. It's not like they are dealing with the treasury
Right.
of any
Yeah, and one of the
substance.
reasons why they do it on an annual basis and didn't want to commit to
They
more than
can't
that,
plan
the
that far in
developer.
advance.
Yeah, and there are only a few students
Yeah.
back, you know, on the, they operate on that margin.
Yeah.
A few students.
I think if we want to do that, I think we have to give them, like, we have to say now,
That we're going to
a
increase it
year
next year?
from now, you should
Okay.
anticipate a modest increase. And let's have a discussion, or, you know, we aren't sure, but because it's been flat for so long, and let them engage with us in a discussion
'Cause
long before.
I can't figure them charging people the same rates they were charging in 2013, and yet
Well, their costs,
we're getting the same.
their teacher costs may be going up, you never know.
I'm just trying to think of, in a regular business world, it would go up.
In a regular business world, they wouldn't have this opportunity to be in the space.
Yes.
I think the other problem too, though, is for,
It's really been an accommodation for the community.
yeah, and it provides that half-day daycare, which is a particularly niche but not very profitable market. So I do think it is a little bit of a service. So I do think that if we were to increase this, we are really taking it to the consumer.
Yeah.
And I hear you, like we've basically subsidized this program for 7 years. But I think where we're nearing the end of the program, we hope, I'd let it go for now.
But, and you didn't mean to say it this way, it's not the end of the program, it's
No,
the
no,
end
right,
of the
right, right.
relationship with the town.
With the town, right.
Because we've ensured that they have an opportunity to
Home,
stay,
right.
to stay in Islington and continue to provide the valuable preschool services that they do. And I think that, it's become a win-win situation. And hopefully it over time, does exactly as planned with the Islington Center development.
Ready for a motion, anybody?
Yep.
I would move that the board extend the Mother's Morning Out nursery school lease for another year to expire on August 31st, 2019, at the annual rate of $84,000, payable in $7,000 monthly increments.
Isn't that 2020 and not 2019, Mike? They're already in the lease year.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because we have to give them 18 months' notice, right? So that's right, so it should be 2020.
2020.
2020, okay. I'll make the change.
For the Board of Selectmen to extend the Mother's Morning Out nursery school lease set to expire on August 31st, 2020, at the annual rate of $84,000, payable in $7,000 monthly increments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry.
I don't know why mine is not popping, but it's all right. Our next on the agenda is to open the warrant for our annual town meeting. Purpose is to open the warrant for our annual spring town meeting to be held on Monday, May 6, 2019. And so therefore, we would open the warrant tonight and keep it generally open until our first meeting in January. Let's see. The Board of Selectmen must accept any petition articles that are submitted with 10 or more signatures of registered voters. Petitioners are encouraged to present and review a draft of their petition language with the Finance and Warrant Commission, the Selectmen, and/or Town Council before obtaining signatures to ensure that the petition can be acted upon by town meeting. Traditionally, the Board of Selectmen accept all articles submitted by a majority of any committee, commission, or board.
I would move that the board vote to open the town meeting warrant for the 2019 annual town meeting and indicate its plan to close the warrant at its first meeting in January.
Which is? 7th? On January 7th.
We will be closing the warrant on January 7th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have a draft open space and recreation plan. The Board of Selectmen received information about the open space and recreation plan update. We have appointed an open space and recreation planning committee in 2017 to work with staff and consultants to update our open space and recreation plan, which has not been updated since the year 2000. So they did a survey in late 2017 and early 18. 800 residents responded to the survey. 60 residents actively participated in the visioning session. Ms. Dickey, you were part of that. Did you want to say anything about that?
No, I would say mainly the committee gathered quite a bit of data and had a large a number of meetings to discuss the outcomes and come up with some sort of plan that can ultimately be integrated into the master plan. I'm not thinking of any highlights, Nora. You want to?
What I would just highlight are the goals and objectives that the committee has narrowed down on. And just explain the process. The committee developed this update of the open space and recreation plan, but it will now go to the planning board, who will be charged with adopting it. So the planning board could take the draft and alter it, but they're receiving what the committee has proposed. And the primary objective, or goal, I guess, of the open space update, it continues most of the goals and objectives from the 2000 plan, but it emphasizes one of them, which was in the 2000 plan, which is the adoption of the Community Preservation Act. It's something that the Open Space and Recreation Planning Committee felt unanimously in favor of the town adopting. So it'll be spelled out in the plan what they're proposing. They're proposing adopting it at the minimum level of 1% with exemptions for senior citizens and homeowners with demonstrated financial needs. So that will be a proposal of the draft plan. They're also recommending, as a strong goal, upgrading the existing recreational facilities throughout town where needed. For instance, updating some of the grass fields, particularly the ones behind Thurston, to add lighting and consider adding turf to those fields to extend the use time of those fields. They're also proposing additional maintenance of conservation areas that the town already owns. And they're proposing both of these, maintenance of recreational facilities and maintenance of open space conservation areas, before acquisition of new land. So I think that's something that's a little bit different. The open space plan of 2000, the emphasis was on acquisition. And between 2000 and now, there has been quite a bit of acquisition of properties, and either through outright purchase or through the implementation of conservation easements. So they're hoping that will continue, but they hope that more focus will be put on maintenance. And then the final item that's a little bit different, that wasn't recommended in a prior plan, is for the town to investigate the feasibility of some type of indoor recreational facility or indoor skating rink. So those are all the proposals that.
Really?
Wonder
An
where
indoor
that- wonder where that
skating
came
rink?
from.
Yes,
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
The rink is
Shocking.
coming. Nora, just a couple of things. On the Community Preservation Act, though, that was a recommendation that pre-existed.
It was a recommendation of the
Just wanted to be
2000 plan, right? And it was attempted
2000.
twice.
And it failed.
It
Right,
did
no,
fail.
that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. So I don't know that we wanted to spend a lot of energy. I think it's been in there since 2000.
It has. And this planning committee felt strongly that
Yeah,
it should be a renewed effort.
You know, I think, and I think we're going to move forward, hopefully, in the spring at trying to get some lighting at Thurston, because I think that's critical. The turf piece is very much up for debate. Turf has pros and cons.
Sure.
And although it reduces the amount of time that a field might be rained out, it decreases quality of play, right? If you play soccer on turf, you have a lot of out of bounds. If you play baseball on turf, you have rolling balls. So I think that's one comment. It's very expensive. So that's a cost benefit. But I appreciate you bringing up the lighting, because I think that's something there's kind of consensus around right now.
So much like the comprehensive plan, the open space recreation plan suggests ideas for a direction for the town to move in. It doesn't set policy, it just gives recommendations for objectives.
But obviously the rink will have to rise to the top.
Now, what I've heard on the on the Community Preservation Act is that long-range financial planning is going to be discussing that.
Yes.
And I find the commentary in this document on it insufficient. I think it should have an overall narrative. It seems like the Community Preservation Act can be used for open space and recreation. And it's not referencing the other things it has to be for, but as I remember, there are buckets.
That's right.
Within
historic preservation, affordable housing.
And you can't do 100% on any one thing. So I think there should be a narrative summary that gives a clearer picture of what it is, given how much emphasis has been placed on it in this document.
Yes, so at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion. The draft that I sent you was the draft that was reviewed by the committee. There are updates to that draft that are in process.
And I
So
have some more to give you.
I will submit.
I've been reading through it, and I just, it sets up for thinking like, oh, it's a no-brainer, we should be doing it. But it's not. It's a tax surcharge.
Right.
And that's a problem. For me, personally, I think that's a problem. And I'm not sure what the numbers would look like if the 1%, the amount of money that would accrue for open space and recreation may be very nominal. The administrative structure of a Community Preservation Act entity is going to be huge for the town.
True.
There are a lot of implications
So that will be
this
spelled
doesn't
out.
even go near.
That will be spelled out. Pam did provide us some numbers on that,
Okay.
and that will be put in.
Yeah, okay, so it's not as straightforward as it seems in this document. I have another question. Towards the end, there's a section that provides for public comments, and it specifically calls out letters coming in from places like the Board of Selectmen. So at what point,
So this
and
is
how
this
does
is
that work?
going to the planning board for them to open their hearing on December 11th.
Okay,
So you could submit it at that time. I don't expect the planning board to just accept this that very night
Right.
and adopt it. I expect them to take it in, consider it, hear more commentary on it, and eventually revise if it needs further revision, and then adopt.
So
So if you have comments that will be prepared by December 11th, that would be a great time to submit them, but if you don't, you'll have a later opportunity.
yeah, this is a letter, that would have to come from the whole board. We'd
Right.
have to, well, we'd have to come up with
Yeah.
something. I think, Mike, if we do a letter on this, it might be along the lines of, one, appreciating the work of this committee
Right.
and the importance of the work in informing the town on planning and going forward. But I think we have to individually maybe give you ideas on other things we would want to have in the letter.
Okay.
And
Because
so,
certainly it's great that this has been done.
and so based on that, I was going to wait till the end, but I'd like to thank those that served on that.
Yes.
Mary Ann Cardy, Roger Christian, Ann Delaney, Michael Gay, Brian Gorman, Mr. Hickey, Pam Kane, Steve Olenoff, Joe Prevatier, Chuck Sheehan, R.J. Shear, Kristen Steider, and Todd Sullivan. And I can tell you from talking to some of them, I know exactly which ones came from which individuals.
And there was one more, Chuck Sheehan moved out of town,
Okay.
and so he resigned, and Tony Mullen, I believe, took his place.
Tony Mullen? Okay, thank you for that, because we want to give Tony credit too. Okay, so do we have to take any action now, or just
No.
put our
I think
comments
I'll
together?
one of the things I think I'll point out, Mrs. Hyde talked about, it was purposeful, especially on the Community Preservation Act, not to get into a long, lengthy discussion about that in the document, because
Right.
that needed to be flushed out. So what you were suggesting about the Community Preservation Act and the fact that there are other things that can be funded and a complexity, it was meant, they wanted to put that aside and have another committee created to go into that.
Yeah.
For this document, I'm just saying there just should be a summary type overview
Yes.
of what the CPA
So-
is, not all the other things that I was talking about, just,
And that was discussed at
Just
their
to
last
frame it.
meeting. There will be a summary, but there will also be an appendix that'll have information, more detailed information about the
That's
Community
right, I
Preservation Act.
remember that.
yeah, I hear what you're saying, Tom. I agree with you. You can't get into all that stuff in this. It's just, I just don't want it to come across as not being a whole lot more complicated than this. So I think if it's a good summary, it will just indicate the areas that,
Need to work on
yeah,
and think about.
that would be part of it. You'll come up with something, but it just needs more.
Thank you, Nora. Okay, so, next on our agenda is the Westwood Lodge redevelopment application.
Is that next?
That's what I have
Give me a
next.
moment.
Yes. I don't know. Ah,
Oh, okay. I didn't want to see you wait much
I
longer.
I know where they, I know where they live. I was thinking there's got to be that one, so. How are you? Great, thank you. Okay. So the Board of Selectmen has received information about a proposed redevelopment at the Westwood Lodge Hospital property. What I'd like to say first, having read social media this weekend, is that this is not town-owned land. This is a private developer who is developing this. There were people who were on social media saying, how could the town go forward with this without, vetting this, et cetera, et cetera. And this is not a Board of Selectmen decision. This is a planning board decision.
Correct.
In fact,
you
this
are-
process is the vetting.
Right. And so you are bringing it before us just so we are informed.
That's right, and so that you can make a recommendation to the planning board.
Okay.
We have received an application from a purchaser of the land. The land is currently owned by Arbor, which ran the Westwood Lodge Hospital.
Right.
I believe they are still actually operating offices in the facility right now.
I know security is still there.
Yes, so.
And I'll add that because of the comment you just made, that Nora and I made a phone call to them and asked if we could purchase, to which we got a laugh. They said you couldn't afford it if you wanted it. So,
Okay.
So just a brief explanation. There's a 20-acre parcel. It's in our single residence C district, which allows it to be developed for residential uses of one lot, 40,000 square feet per lot. So essentially for 20 units of housing could be developed there by right. The property, because it has historically been used as a hospital facility, could also be used as another hospital facility. Those are the options that this potential purchaser can apply for by right. You can also apply for a special permit for an open space residential development, and that's what's proposed here. So the application has been received by the town planner, and it's been scheduled for a preliminary hearing by the planning board on December 11th. This will be the first step hearing where the planning board reviews the concept plan and gives the direction to the applicant whether or not they would consider approving it. So what I've provided you with is a top sheet that just shows the existing site. Now you can see the existing hospital building. And up at the corner of Clabbertree and Winter Street, there's a field that the town has use of right now as a soccer and lacrosse field. One of the reasons that we have been speaking to this developer about an open space residential development plan is because that would be an opportunity to maintain the use of that field. However, going to the next page, what I want to show you here is what the developer could do by right, not as an open space plan, but simply as residential development of the property. And what he shows here is, I believe, 11 house lots to be cut out, 11 single-family homes.
And I'm sorry, Nora, I just can't read the fine print. So when you saw those 11, beneath it, what's the acreage of each of those?
Each one is a minimum of 40,000 square feet.
Okay.
Except for Lot 3, which is the interior portion that's over 10 acres. So that's what could be done by right. There's also an option to do a subdivision where you actually put a road through here. They could get a lot more houses. They could get up to 20 houses that way. However, I'll point out that it would be difficult to do without a waiver from the planning board because the subdivision regulations have a minimum distance between intersections, existing ones and proposed ones. So in order to get a subdivision road into this property and not be too close to another intersection, they would need a waiver from the planning board, or they would need access to a portion of the site that they may not have access to right
So
now.
no, they can only do 11.
They can do 11
because
by
street frontage? Is that right?
Right, these are what are called A&R lots,
Okay.
approval not required lots. So this would be with no planning board review at all.
Yeah.
They would simply present this plan to the planning board. The planning board would have no choice but to endorse it.
Okay.
And then 11 single-family homes could be constructed.
Okay.
So
And
that's,
is there a maximum AFR, the square footage of the home? What's the maximum square footage of the home?
there's no maximum square footage, but there are setback requirements, and there's a height requirement.
Okay.
So you have to be in this zone, you have to have a 40-foot front setback, 30-foot rear setback, and 20-foot setback on either side. And your height of the average height of your building, which is measured, a lot of people, I want to make sure people understand, that's not the height of the peak of the roof.
Right.
That's the average height taken from the peak to the eave,
Right.
and right in the middle would be the average. That can be 25 feet, plus 1 additional foot for every foot beyond the minimum setback that you keep. So if you're required to have 20-foot side setbacks and you actually have 40, you could add additional height to your building up to 35 feet.
But we're talking 11 big houses.
11 big houses could
High-end
go there.
houses. Presumably.
So that's what they could do by right.
Okay. And
What
then the
they-
next one,
what-
how many?
The next one shows what they are proposing, and they're asking the planning board to consider for a preliminary review of an open space residential development plan. This would be done under the senior housing provision of the open space residential development plan, which allows 4 times the density otherwise allowed on the lot. So where the lot could accommodate up to 20 homes, they would be allowed to apply for a special permit for senior housing to have as many as 80 homes. What they're actually proposing are 40 senior townhouses on the interior of the lot and 6 A&R lots on the exterior. So 2 on Clabbertree Street and 4 on Winter Street. So that would be a total of 46 homes.
So Nora, when you say 40 senior townhomes in the interior,
Right. So if you look at the green, that would be the green is actually the open space that's maintained as part of the development,
okay?
which would include the soccer lacrosse field that we use now,
Yeah.
and would include a perimeter around the site. The light blue are the A&R lots that they would cut off before they propose to develop the
Those 6
interior
those 6
for
lots.
40. That
Okay.
would be 6. So where the first plan that they can do by right is 11 single-family homes, the proposal they've actually presented to the planning board is for 6 single-family homes, and then an interior townhouse, I guess it's not really a subdivision, it's a single lot. They're condominium townhomes, restricted to residents 55 years and older. And there would be 40 of them in the current proposal. So they would bring this to the planning board. The planning board will review it on the 11th. There are a couple of waivers that they would need from the planning board in order to approve this. The first waiver has to do with the location of the side streets. There is one road off of Clabbertree that takes you into this development, and another road that comes out onto Winter Street. Both of those roads are it's a single road. Both of those road exits are too close to existing intersections. So in order for them to propose this development, the planning board would have to grant them a waiver to allow them to be closer than required by subdivision regulations to intersections.
So,
Another waiver?
no, based on the plan, is there a way that they can be within compliance? No.
There is not. No, the only development that I see that's in compliance right now would be the A&R
11.
plan for the
A&R
11
first
single-family
one,
homes.
yeah.
So this would require a special permit, and the special permit would require a couple of items for the planning board to consider whether they wanted to allow this or not. Another item that they would have to consider is to allow the open space to be manicured and used as a recreation field. The bylaw requires passive recreation uses for open space. Open space to be kept in its natural state. Now, this field exists, so
Right.
it is its natural
Right,
state, but
right.
maintaining it long-term for this use would require the planning board to grant special permission. And then the third item that the planning board would have to consider has to do with the affordable housing. So while the 11-lot A&R plan doesn't require any affordable housing, that would be 11 market rate units. An open space residential development plan that requires a special permit, such as the senior residential development proposal here, requires 15%, a minimum of 15% of the units be affordable. So the developer's initial choice, or the initial proposal, would be to make 15% of the proposed units affordable. There are provisions in the bylaw that allows a developer to ask the planning board to grant permission for some other arrangement that's equally beneficial to the town. And this developer is proposing, rather than have 15% of the 40 units, so 6 units, of on-site affordable townhouse condominiums that are age-restricted, he's proposing instead to have 6 off-site family housing units created in town, either created on new land or created by renovating existing multifamily structures to get 6 units. So that's something the planning board is going to have to grapple with and decide if they think that's equally beneficial or not.
And they'd have to identify that long before planning board approves it, right?
So what happens at the preliminary stage is the planning board gives them an indication of how they feel about that and whether they would entertain that when he comes back with his regular application. There was a proposal not too long ago for 215 High Street that went through the same procedure, and that was a proposal for 19 homes. I think there were 11 single-family and 8 duplex units, or they called them quads, actually. And that was a proposal that had the 3 required affordable units they wanted to put off-site, and the planning board talked to them about it, initially said maybe they'd like to see more than 3, eventually said that they would be willing to accept 3 off-site units for that. That proposal has not yet come back to a final application, but it has its initial recommendation from the planning board, and that's what this developer is looking for. They're looking to hear from the planning board, would they consider those waivers that are requested at all, and would they consider off-site affordable housing that allows market rate, not market rate, affordable but non-restricted to age, or would they like them to be 6 on-site, age-restricted, for-sale units?
I mean, for me, when we talk about affordable housing, I mean, I do believe in dispersing, right? So we're not clustering too much. This plan itself seems very dense.
I would agree.
This seems very dense. So, so that's number 1. So before we get to numbers, because I can't imagine this is the final form. It just seems.
This is what the developers
a proposal,
requesting.
right,
So
right.
as I said, they are, if you go by the yield calculation, they could have up to 80 units. They're proposing 40.
They could do
So on
80
that
as of right?
No.
No, it's
special
all
permit.
by special permit.
All by special-
Anything
all by
that's-
special permit,
Anything
okay.
that's senior housing in the OSRD is special permit. But the yield calculation tells them what the maximum is. So they looked at that maximum, then they looked at the land, and they've determined for their type of development that they do elsewhere in the state, this is the number that makes sense. Now, the planning board has to take a look at it. They will look at the density, they will look at the layout, they'll look at the affordable housing proposal, and they'll look at the open space as well.
Yeah, I mean, wherever the final number is, I can't imagine that we'll ultimately have this development with no affordable housing. I mean, I could see a split, but I think one of the challenges we have in the town is residents who want to remain in Westwood carrying these very big houses that they can't afford, right?
Well, there would have to be there's no opportunity for the planning board to approve this without affordable housing. There must be affordable housing.
Question is whether it's here.
Has to be a minimum of 15%. It's a question of whether it's on-site or off-site.
And it could be some on-site, some off-site, right?
It could be
a lot of
anything
things.
that the planning board determines after consultation with the Housing Partnership and the Westwood Housing Authority, whatever they determine after
Yeah.
speaking with them, to be equally sufficient in meeting the town's needs.
Yeah, I mean, in the ideal world, we would preserve this, but I mean, the reality is we don't have the means,
Yeah.
right? So it's going to be developed.
According to the
And-
developer, we didn't have the means.
It's going to be developed
Yeah.
or reused as a
Well,
hospital.
I believe that the
Yeah, no,
the
they're
type of
right.
ho-
I don't-
the type of profit that's possible by
I just
development.
I don't see us having the ability to buy it. But, so I guess a couple things. It's going to be developed. I do think there's a lot to be said for over 55 housing. I do think there's a population of people in Westwood and surrounding towns who want to stay in this area, who feel squeezed out of the market, so this gives some opportunity, right?
I think we've seen several examples on board members that moved out of town
'Cause
for
they couldn't
that
afford
very
anything.
reason. They couldn't
The hot
find
market
what they were
is
looking
something
for.
affordable that's nice, right? So that's that. I do think a couple of things, though, and I know this will become a major point, but that whole area, though, number one, I think it's too dense. Number two, I do see housing there at some point, but this has got to include, and I don't know if we put it on the developer or it's on the town, it has got to be made more pedestrian friendly. From Pond Street along Clapboard Street to Winter is a hazard as it exists. That soft turn from Clapboard onto Winter,
So the developer came as the first step. Part of the open space residential development plan requires the developer to have their first step going to the land use committee, which is a staff board
Right, okay.
that has all the land use, health, building, conservation, zoning, and also has the public works department as representatives. And they actually discussed, Todd Korchin
Okay, good.
explained to them that they would need to put sidewalks.
Right,
And
okay.
Todd is in the process of designing a
A
Because
T
an
intersection.
improvement of the
Yeah,
intersection
yeah.
of Clabber Tree and Bridger Street, and the developer agreed that they would be willing to put the sidewalks in there.
And just, I know, Laura, this will take a lot of study, and again, I think it's too dense, and if you reduce it, could you ever see a development with just like a cul-de-sac, one way in and one way out?
So the planning board has historically opposed cul-de-sacs that are longer than 500 feet.
Okay,
And they do that at the fire chief's urging.
okay.
There's concern that if it's longer than 500 feet, that there's
They
an
get in.
inability to get
Right.
in and to get people out.
Yeah. If you have a tree or telephone pole that comes down at the one entrance that you've got, you got a problem.
So I note that the planning board, are you attention?
No, I mean, I think that's it, for me. I mean, obviously, it takes a lot of study, and it'll take some time. I think it's important for everybody to recognize, though, it will be developed. It's private property. We can't deny them of all property rights. And so at some point, something is going to be developed, and I want to make sure it's best for the town.
The other point is that it's developable as a hospital.
Right, so the options are, it could be reused as a hospital, or it could be developed as single-family house lots. And the concern about the single-family house lots is the concern that I bring up all the time, that those lots add to the denominator of our subsidized housing inventory without adding anything to the numerator.
Correct.
It does not bring any affordable housing, but it adds the need to create affordable housing.
So
to
because he could
offset
build those
units.
11 by right, he wouldn't have to do any affordable housing?
No affordable housing for any by right development. But if they want to propose a special permit development, then that brings in
Then we can apply
affordable
it,
housing,
okay.
right.
All right, so I note that this is only before us just for knowledge and for our personal comments. And the planning board is holding its hearing on December 11th, which is Tuesday, at 7 o'clock at the Downey School cafeteria. But I did note that we have some abutters in the room. Would you like to say anything now?
Sure, I mean.
Sure. You just have to identify yourself for the record.
I live in the corner of Winter and Blackwood Tree.
Yes.
We just came for the information.
Just for television. You need to have a
For
microphone.
television,
Hold it
yes.
up closer.
Hold it up
It's
close.
on. Yeah, you go.
Okay,
Perfect.
great.
Just identify yourself for the record.
Irene Brennan, 22 Winter Street.
Thank you.
So my first question was whether the Board of Selectmen have any role in this process or any legal authority over it. I mean, it is private property. It's going to be developed.
So the short answer is we really don't have any control over it, but like your comments, our comments are considered.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
we don't really have much that we can do about it because that's not what we're elected for. That would be the planning board to review it. But based on social media, I could say that there will probably be a lot of people attending the public hearing on December 11th.
Right. Well, that's partly why we are here. We can't attend that meeting,
Right.
so we wanted to
And that's,
get.
I
This is a
figured that's why
crazy
you were
time
here,
of
and I
year.
was giving you the opportunity. So,
But you should submit a letter, though.
I will.
If you can't attend the hearing, you can
Yes.
submit your comments in writing.
Right.
You can also call the town planner, and you can speak to her, and she'll
And
make
speak.
sure your comments get passed on to the
Okay.
planning board.
And I think what's important, too, it's a good question about levels of authorities, especially when you talk about planning boards. Sometimes people view it as purely a political question, and really there's this statute that governs what you can and can't do. And developers have rights to challenge these things in court, so you have to be, somewhat careful. And we have we have quite a bit of leeway in what we grant, especially under a special permit. But ultimately, we can't just deprive them of all ability to build, right? So
We offer the opportunity for a special permit as an enticement to get them to do something that adds value to the town.
right.
right. So,
Did you have anything else?
Anything else you'd like to say? Sure. Just hand the microphone over and identify yourself again.
Yep. I'm Rob Stairs. I also live at 22 Winter Street. I had a question about the basic plan with the 11 A&R lots. For example, lot number 5, he's drawn it right on the bend. Can he literally just throw in a driveway right there, and there's not even the state has a say in how that street, I mean, given that it's a main throughway, the state has no rules about how many driveways?
No, they don't. So you need a curb cut from our Public Works Department, but that does not have to do with the location of the driveway. It has to do with the construction of it. We have a bylaw that allows for another type of special permit for a shared driveway, where that seems more appropriate. And sometimes we get developers to take advantage of that. where they have a driveway maybe coming across a neighbor's lot so that they can have a safer access. But they have a right to have access to their property.
Okay. Any other questions?
And do you know if is this the only proposal for that lot? I mean, it's such an enormous piece of land that it'd just be a boondoggle.
The A&R plan is what's called a proof plan. That's what a developer does to show you what they can do with the land. That doesn't mean that that's what they would do.
Right.
It's just something that they
sorry, I was asking if there's another developer, or is this the only?
This developer has a signed purchase and sales agreement with the property owner.
Okay.
Right, so they're the ones putting forth the proposal. There's no competition right now. If they are unable to do what they want to do, I'm not privy to their contract with the property owner, but I imagine if they decide not to go forward, someone else could come in and try something different.
I mean, it's such a huge lot, it's going to be developed.
Right, and they're not limited to, I mean, they proposed a plan for what they do have under control on sale and purchase, but we've seen developer after developer come in where they're blocked with something, and they just buy another.
Right.
To get access, they'll just buy a house and put a road.
Right, so what I had said before was that they need a waiver to develop this because they're too close to the intersections. However, a developer could buy an existing lot in Chase Estates that would give them access at a point where they would be far enough away from the intersections to not need the waiver. And if they were able to do that, then they would be able to get a subdivision to build at least 20 homes in there, as opposed to the 11.
Nora, are they all 2 bedrooms?
What's proposed here for senior housing, yes, those are 2 bedrooms. So
You know the square
if you
footage?
continue on, there's a representative sample illustration of what the units would look like. They're attached townhouses, and then there are 3 floor plans. They're all 2-bedroom plans.
Yeah.
And they're all age restricted. Age restricted means that one person who lives in the home would have to be 55 or older, not all residents.
And do you any idea on the square footage? I don't think he has it or anything.
I believe that's in their application, but I don't know it offhand.
Interesting.
They're kind of an odd configuration, too.
They're sort of a California design where they have
I was gonna
courtyards.
say, yes.
Yeah.
Little courtyards.
You enter off the courtyard as opposed to in the front.
But I would encourage you both to send communication. They do include them in the discussion. I mean, it'll be interesting to see as the discussion moves forward. So you're missing that meeting, but I'm sure there'll be a couple.
And they are having a meeting, an informal meeting with abutters that they proposed for this week, but we can't make that one either. It's just a crazy time of year.
It's all right.
But one follow-up question about you mentioned the affordable housing piece and, including if they were to build the 11 homes without any
Special
affordable housing as part of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
How big an issue is that for the town?
So for those 11 homes, that would require us to add 1.1 affordable homes in order not to become susceptible to 40B. So for every 10 homes in town that are developed that are not by special permit, and so there's no affordable housing requirement, we have to come up with one more home of affordable housing.
And how likely is that?
Well,
So we had an issue where there was a number of apartments in town that we didn't have a deed restriction, the way the program was set up many years ago. A new owner came in and took away the affordability piece. So our percentage is hovering.
Right.
So it's building of 11 homes without adding any affordable housing is an issue.
so right now we have a projected deficit of somewhere between 9 and 21 affordable units. The recent Islington Center redevelopment will give us 12. So if our shortfall came out to 9, that gets us over the top and even gives room enough to add these 11 homes. But if the shortfall actually comes out more to the 21 area, then this would only exacerbate the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And those numbers, the reason there's a range is there have been projects approved, but not yet developed. So there are places in town where someone has approval to divide their lot into 2 and build 2 homes, but they haven't yet done it.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't know. If they do it before 2020, then we need to account for it. And if they don't, then we have another 10 years.
And you mentioned another over 55
Yes,
development.
there was a proposal for 215 High Street, and that was a proposal for 19 on-site homes and then 3 affordable units that those developers were going to purchase existing homes in Westwood and convert them to affordable units. 3 affordable homes. So in that case, excuse me, they're creating 19 homes, which would create a demand for 1.9 housing units, affordable housing units, but they're giving you 3 affordable housing units. So it,
A buffer of one.
right, it keeps that, it addresses the need there and gives you more. So for here, they're proposing 40 special permit homes that we can require 6 affordable homes to offset those. So you cover the 4 required for those 40 homes, plus 2 others. But we can't require affordable homes for these 6 perimeter lots that they're proposing. So those 2 extra units, 0.6 of those 2 are needed just to address this. So it's not as positive as if they were doing a whole development as a special permit.
So, not that it matters, Nora, but I would prefer that the 6 affordable be included in the you know, right in the
And that's the
development.
default position that the planning board
Yeah, I
starts
mean,
with.
they did it with Chase Estates, and they do it just about everywhere else. Why wouldn't they do it in this development?
So the reason this developer is proposing doing something different is that he has had experience, he's found it difficult to age restrict an affordable home ownership unit as opposed to a rental unit. So this is a case where these would be condominiums, and then the affordable buyer buys it at an affordable price. The maximum sale price may be $200,000, where all of the other market rate homes may go, I don't think he's told us the price, say
Half,
8,
say.
yeah,
Yeah.
600,000, 800,000, we don't know what it'll be. So they get quite a discount in purchasing it because they're affordable, but there is no discount applied to their condominium fees. And for that reason,
Yeah,
they have trouble selling those units.
okay. That makes sense, okay.
And then they're limited, of course, because it's age restricted to buyers that meet the affordability requirements, yet can still afford the condo fees, and that are 55 and older. So that's a very narrow
Right,
market that they have to sell to.
okay.
So that's the concern, and that's the reason their first choice would be to go off-site. However, their application does say that if the planning board says the units must be on-site, they're still proceeding with their application.
Right. Those would be in perpetuity?
They would be. All affordable homes are deed restricted in perpetuity.
And I know in some instances you are able to impose or require that they discount
The condo fees.
condo fees.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Nora.
That would
Thank
give
you
you
for
an
coming.
opportunity. At least you got an opportunity for television. Right?
So we'll see you at one of the meetings.
I'm sure there'll be lots of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Nancy, you can come back now.
No, you can't.
Oh, great, thank you.
Oh, we can, sure. Dan, did you want to come up you're under our old business?
Sure.
Then we'll go back to.
It is old business, but new business and good news. Just quickly, we are preparing to close Phase 1 of the Islington development. Just to remind you and the public, Phase 1 is the transfer of, and consists of the transfer of the parking lot on Washington Street to Giorgio Petruzziello as the developer, and then the construction of the CVS and a new parking lot. We anticipate being able to close that this week. The only thing we're waiting for, there are 2 things we're waiting for. One is for you guys to sign the deed, which I have right here, and the other is for a letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development acknowledging that the 12 units that Mr. Petruzziello has in his project on Washington Street is existing multifamily. I don't recall the address. 323. No, yeah, Nora, I know Nora would know. Have been added to the subsidized housing index by the state. We expect that letter tomorrow, but as soon as we get that, we'll close it.
Okay.
The other thing that, the board should know is, I've been working with Mike and Nora on this, and the town has $400,000 coming. And, Mike has asked that we do an escrow agreement, where the funds would be held with me until such time as he directs me where to send it, which is fine. I've got a copy of that agreement here as well, and I provided it to Mike and Tom. So what we're asking for here tonight is simply a vote. We need a vote of the board. You are authorized pursuant to warrant article number 11 from the 2018 annual town meeting to sign this deed. So all I'd ask is that, I think I sent it to you, but I would certainly read it, that you move that in accordance with the land disposition agreement between the town and Petruzziello Properties LLC dated June 11th, 2018, the board, 1, approve and execute a deed conveying 277 to 283 Washington Street to Petruzziello Properties LLC, and 2, direct Attorney Bailey to hold the deed in escrow to be delivered at the Phase 1 closing as described in the land disposition agreement.
I suppose, Dan, the only question I have is, I understand everything about it, and no questions on the deed or anything else, but why would we have them hold it in escrow and have the Commonwealth of Mass and the BDO earning the interest on that? That doesn't make any sense to me.
All right, so here's the deal. We are in a process of working on an agreement with Mike McKay to be the designer of the public building.
Okay.
And the reason why that makes sense, and I've checked this out with Tim Bonfardi, who's advised us on other matters. It makes sense from the point of view that he wouldn't have to coordinate with another designer for the building. He would be accountable to us for the design. We would run it by us and all of that. But in order to go down that road, it's best to have the developer provide the funds that are paid, so that's what we're holding in an escrow account, and the contract be with the developer for the design phase. In effect, what we're doing is giving them credit for the payment that will be made directly to the architect, and then the remaining funds of the $400,000 then would be the town funds. We could take it out of the escrow account as we need it. Say we contract, for instance, with a mover toward the end of the project, end of Phase 1, going into Phase 2. We contract with a mover to move the building that's been designed, the lot's been prepared, or we need the foundation to be paid for. That comes out of the escrow account. So the point of having the escrow account is that we can pay for the bills that need to be paid as they come up.
I understand everything you're saying. I think Dan gets it, because he has to hold it in escrow, right? Which means the town has no interest on that money as long as it sits there. As long as it sits there.
I can set it up so the town. I can set it up so the town earns interest.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't have to be in an
the rates are overwhelming.
Well, yeah, I mean, usually it's not worth it.
No, but
it's getting better.
They are going up. Yeah,
you're right.
In fact,
2 times nothing is
2 times 2, yeah.
nothing.
No, it's actually, they said it was actually higher than the stock market lately, is to put it into money market accounts again, so.
I mean, well, yeah, because
so what, you could set it up like a regular savings account?
I can set it up so it pays interest to the town.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I'm thinking about.
It's actually,
procedurally,
it's probably worthwhile to do it now for the first time in 10 years. It used to be, it cost you more to set it up.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Well, if it still costs more to set it up, then don't do it, but obviously, otherwise do it.
I think you're probably right. It should go to the town, not the IOLTA account.
Yeah, exactly, which is where all that interest goes, so.
Yeah, there was a day when it was a lot of money.
Yes. There was a day when my account was a lot of money, but. Okay, so.
Anything else?
He made the motion.
So I'll read it again. I would move that the board approve in accordance with the land disposition agreement between the town and Petruzziello Properties LLC dated June 11th, 2018, that we, 1, approve and execute a deed conveying 227 to 283 Washington Street, Westwood, to Petruzziello Properties LLC, and 2, direct Attorney Dan Bailey to hold the deed in escrow to be delivered at the Phase 1 closing as described in the land disposition agreement.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Dan.
I'm not leaving without it.
You can notarize it.
Yes, there you go.
Or call us to come sign.
Oh, she is? I didn't know that.
I'm a notary down in the end.
I am a notary.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Donnie and Teresa's background.
Ah. Good to know.
Thank you.
Yes, Tom.
You're free acting deed?
Yes, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Thank you. Good.
Another matter you're here for? Oh, you're waiting for this.
Yep.
All right, so
Nora, go home.
moving along on our agenda,
You
actually
gotta be
going back.
exhausted.
Going back on our agenda to old business, we have to formally accept the resignation of Bruce Montgomery, Municipal Facilities Task Force and Long Range Financial Planning Committee, and Charles Pare, is that how you say it?
Yes.
Conservation Commission. So, we have Bruce Montgomery is in the process of moving out of town and can no longer serve on the Municipal Facilities Task Force or the Long Range Financial Planning Committee. These positions are usually filled by current members of interested committees and boards and residents who may have been active in town government in the past. So,
I move that we accept the resignation of Bruce Montgomery from the Municipal Facilities Task Force and the Long Range Financial Planning Committee effective immediately.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I further move that we accept the resignation of Charles Pare from the Conservation Commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Wow. Betsy,
and
I logged out.
were we doing anything as far
logged out
as
and back in.
What's that?
were we doing anything as far as appointments?
Flicking to the
Uh,
I know,
I'll show
no.
you later.
Yeah,
No, not yet.
Well, I suggested that
Yes.
we consider,
Phil?
he's a member of the assessors, and he's willing to be the second. And when the chairman's not able to attend, he'd be happy to be the alternate,
Okay.
if you wanted to do that.
Who's clerk?
I am.
For Phil, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So which committee would he go on?
He'd go on the
Municipals?
municipal
Okay.
municipal task force and the long range
Financial Planning
financial
Committee?
planning. No, just the long range financial.
Just the
planning.
long range,
Sorry,
right?
Sorry,
That's all.
sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
just Long Range Financial
Yeah,
Planning?
yeah.
Yes.
So a motion?
Yeah, do we want to fill the vacancy by Bruce Montgomery with Phil Shapiro to the Long Range Financial Planning
As
Committee?
an alternate to the chair of the Board of Assessors.
That's correct.
Second.
That was a motion, yes, I heard me make it.
Said it.
And you did a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We get there.
Yeah, and that's not to say that he wouldn't be interested in the municipal facilities
That was
task
truly
force,
a
but we
team
could talk about it. I didn't think of
Takes a
asking
village.
about that one, so.
Okay, so,
I'm gonna,
let's see,
just
my,
uncooked.
Another, I just point out, another John Cronin person coming back, just do more service.
There you go.
okay. So we have new appointments still under our old business for a screening committee for our legal services. So Mr. Gillette, last time we had asked you to put together a list of who you think might be serving on the board to review and consider almost an RFP, if you will, for legal services for the town.
Right.
So you have provided for us Mr. Gillette, Pam Dukeman, Chief Silva, Nora, Lou Rizzoli, who is a local attorney, and Mr. Bailey, who's still here, by the way. And so we need questions or comments about those?
No, they look great.
And
Appreciate everybody
as
stepping up.
selectmen, yeah.
And so one of us, John, would you like to do that?
I would.
Okay, you're in.
Thank you.
At least, Inez,
Yep,
is it
that's
okay with
great.
that?
No,
Okay,
I think
Yeah.
I'm
good-
happy to.
good
have you sit on.
applicable experience, John, so
Yeah, no,
put it to work.
You know, I've been utilizing outside counsel for like 20 years, so I think it's a really interesting process. And I know, Mike, we've talked a number of times about just looking overall, so it'll be good to get, this will be step one of a larger process. So I appreciate it. I look forward to it.
Okay, so.
So I move we appoint the aforementioned individuals to the newly formed Town Council Search Committee,
Screening Committee for Legal Services, okay.
like he said.
It's only 9 o'clock. We
Well,
can't fall apart.
Everybody's chipping in on these motions. This is good.
So here's the problem.
Well,
My
Betsy
my
is down,
screen
isn't she?
has gone, is busted. I've
okay.
got links to wrong items all over the place, so I don't have
It's doing it
it.
everywhere, so that's all
Yeah,
right.
it's doing it
It's
to
doing
mine
it
too.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
That's okay. It happens.
So anyway, yes, we have a
So
second.
yes, so that is the,
So we have a motion, we have a second.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks all.
Okay,
And what I was hoping, I'll just add, what I was hoping to do is have more of a draft of a request for proposals than the one I handed you.
Yeah.
But I will have that in the next couple of days. I will send it to you by email.
okay.
Oh, is
If
that
you-
the one we, okay.
No, if you use the one, now, don't use the last pages with the ranking and the
Yeah.
questions, because those, I didn't even edit those. It's just the body of it.
Yeah.
If you
Okay.
see things in the body that you would like to removed or added to or clarified, please send in those suggestions, and I'll incorporate them with the other modifications that I get, and we'll have a final, more of a final document that then I'll send around to everybody.
And so Mike, how will we advertise this or put this proposal out?
I suggest that we we'll identify in the community that we're doing this for people in this area. And we also have some attorneys, some small firms that I've listed in the MMA and places like that.
'Cause I know,
that we'll wanna
part of the
send
reason that, you know, I know several attorneys that do it too, so. you
Right.
know,
Yeah,
And
smaller
what
firms.
I'm saying is,
Bring them all in.
bring them all in.
Exactly.
Whatever you got for
Yeah.
suggestions, when you're giving me your suggestions on edits, give me suggestions for people, we'll just list them out.
Okay.
And we'll send them the RFP if they're interested.
Yep.
Yeah, we went through a process last year for the first time in decades getting new labor council. And everybody that bid, we brought in. Because you'd be surprised what you learn, you
Yeah.
know, when talking. So
Sometimes you get good ideas
get good
even from
ideas,
the
free
ones you don't
ideas.
hire.
Okay.
Really? Wow. Who did you interview with?
Selectmen.
Just the selectmen, yeah. It's interesting.
Back in the day.
Okay, well, seeing no other business, I would like to just say that our next meeting will be on Monday, December 10th at 7:30, right here in the EOC training room, or as we like to say, the community room at the police station. On Monday, December 10th, we hope to see you all Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock at Town Hall for the annual tree lighting ceremony. Thank you. I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thanks.
Thank you.